Today I am going to be reading the report on the Biden laptop by Marco Polo, which is the nonprofit that's actually owned by a man named Garrett Ziegler, who's an American political activist and former political aide who worked as a White House staffer in the first administration of U.S. President Donald Trump. And he is also known for founding the nonprofit Marco Polo. Ziegler was brought onto the child support case between London Roberts and Hunter Biden by Roberts' lawyers, who had him designated an expert witness. They stated Ziegler was, quote, an expert in Hunter Biden and many details of his life. At first, Biden's attorneys opposed his inclusion on the grounds of a lack of expertise and an alleged bias against Biden, but eventually conceded to his inclusion. Ziegler then gave a deposition to the court. The case was eventually settled. In September 2023, Ziegler was sued by Hunter Biden for allegedly violating privacy laws when, quote, accessing, tampering with, manipulating, altering, copying, and damaging computer data of Biden's. And this is the complaint from Hunter Biden. Okay, here's the background. Providing a true and thorough account of any topic or period is a difficult endeavor, but it is especially so when one is not afforded the luxury of declassified documents or the passage of time which seems to clear the air of any contemporary, often political, hurdles to the truth. In fact, there appears to be an inverse relationship between the recency of events, scandalous as this account or not, and the willingness of the associated parties to speak about them. The Marco Polo Nonprofit Research Group set out in September 2021 to write a comprehensive report on the Biden laptop, which it possessed a copy of, fully cognizant of these limitations. Nevertheless, the group intends for this report to stand the test of time for its thorough and sober explanation of the situation. The blatant social media suppression, intelligence community, and corporate media gaslighting and cowardice of federal law enforcement to deliver justice to those who obviously committed crimes. The Department of Justice, specifically the Federal Bureau of Investigation, took possession of an Apple laptop previously used by Hunter Biden on 12/09/2019, following months of back and forth with a computer repair shop owner named John Paul Mac Isaac. That is 4 first names in one name. Hunter had abandoned the device at Mac Isaac's shop in Wilmington in April 2019. FBI Special Agents Mike Zielak and Josh Wilson, both child pornography investigators, took weeks to respond to Mac Isaac, who wanted the device out of his shop because he believed it contained evidence of felonies. When the FBI agents finally acquired the laptop, their subpoena was issued under the pretense of a money laundering investigation. This report would not have been necessary if law enforcement had done its job. Dereliction of duty is nothing new for the FBI, as its government-sponsored cover-up occurred with Anthony Weiner's devices. Additionally, besides a few notable exceptions, news outlets and think tanks in America have been unwilling to investigate and expose the hundreds of crimes and conflicts of interest on the Biden laptop, which, as you will read, definitively implicate the sitting president, Joe Biden. Okay, so that's the intro. We are 15 minutes in, and I finally got past the first page. They link all their sources under every page. But there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. Business-related crimes is like hundreds of pages long. I only know about Ukraine and maybe China. What is going on with Kazakhstan, Romania, Mexico, Serbia, Libya? Oh boy. After the FBI slow walk came to light just before the 2020 presidential election, Agent Zielak deleted his Facebook account and other online information. It is unclear whether the fact that Hunter lobbied the U.S. Congress on behalf of Agent Zielak's factored into Zielak's decision to not act on the Biden's numerous federal and state felonies. Information about the other Fed, Agent Wilson, was difficult to locate, as if he too had intentionally scrubbed his online presence. We do know that Agent Wilson previously served at the FBI headquarters as the coordinator for the Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team. Shown below is Agent Wilson's signature from an unrelated complaint he filed regarding child pornography offenses, along with the subpoena he signed on 12/09/2019, which sought the laptop. That is the like one point that I wanted to make is the same point that they make on the first page is that this is all with research that has been destroyed, covered up, hidden, every type of corruption. Donald Trump, his entire life is just aired out for the entire world to look into, look back on, listen to every word he's ever said in every interview. And yet, like, the worst thing that they can come with is, like, he said the puss word one time, or he called Rosie O'Donnell a pig, or that's the worst, really? And this was his opponent? This was his opponent, and his opponent won. And we lost 4 years of our country to it. In 21st century America, crimes and or scandals involving electronic devices owned by public officials and their families are becoming an alarming trend. In fact, Hunter, having abandoned his infamous water-damaged laptop at Mac Isaac's repair shop, was merely the latest in a string of national embarrassments. Our research group would not be concerned with such embarrassments if they did not provide America's many enemies, both foreign and domestic, with considerable blackmail. Discontented with many limited hangouts released so far, this report was our effort to give a true, complete, and lasting account of the Biden laptop and its contents, which span over a decade. To illustrate a point previously alluded to, the non-exhaustive list below of various electronic device scandals and public officials illustrates this national embarrassment. A laptop, along with an iPhone and iPad that belonged to former Congressman Anthony Weiner, contained sexually explicit images he exchanged with a 15-year-old girl from North Carolina. The devices contained evidence of other felonies, including classified emails between Uma Abedin, Weiner's then wife, and then U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. He's not still, like, in Congress, right? Or doing anything in government? Okay, he went to prison for it, so he's out? Being a government official, exchanging CP. Former Congressman Chris Lee used his cell phone to take explicit photos and sent them through Craigslist to strangers. Former First Lady Hillary Clinton illegally used a private email server which she had installed in a closet in her home in New York for official government work while she was the U.S. Secretary of State. As a result, 38 public officials were cited for violations in the criminal conspiracy. Former FBI agents and philanderers Peter Strzok and Lisa Page exchanged hundreds of text messages on government-issued devices about everything from their hatred of Donald Trump and their insurance policy about his election to the logistics. Former Congresswoman Katie Hill recorded and photographed her sex and drug binges with staff and her now ex-husband, which led to a resignation from Congress and a failed lawsuit against the outlets that exposed her degenerate and illegal behavior. Ed Buck, a former mega donor to Congressman Adam Schiff and a member of the Electoral College in 2016 for the state of California, filmed and photographed his drug and sex benders with indigent black men, which led to his conviction after 2 of the men died as a result of Buck injecting them with lethal doses of methamphetamine. What? I'm so glad that they put Democrat or Republican, because, like, this is the worst that they got on the Republican, and then like 5 examples of Democrats, and it's like the most degenerate, evil shit. Yeah, 2 sides of the same coin, don't forget. And this Republican better have been destroyed, legally and lawfully, constitutionally so. Okay, thousands of emails from John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign manager, revealed his associates' participation in seances and secret engagements with international bankers. Huh. Yeah, these last 2 I don't think get talked about enough. Especially relevant to the Biden laptop scandal in this report was Apple's iCloud feature and its capabilities. As a general rule, any picture taken on Hunter's iPhone and iPad appeared on his laptop via the iCloud Photos application, which automatically synced the photos across his devices. There's no way he got exposed because he's old and doesn't understand technology. From Marco Polo's perspective, this iCloud feature provided gigabytes of extra material to investigate, but it also presented challenges to establishing the basic 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. For example, Determining which iPhone device belonged to which member of the Biden family was critical, as who took a particular picture was as important as the actual image. Case in point, sexually suggestive photos of Hunter's niece were not synced to his laptop via iCloud, but were rather manually downloaded to his laptop when he backed up his niece's and sister-in-law's phones to his laptop with the Dr. Phone tool. This fact opened up multiple lines of questioning. Why did Hunter's sister-in-law have sexually suggestive photos of her own daughter on her iPhone? Why did Hunter want them? How were they not prosecuted for possessing them? With the Biden laptop, questions like these were unanswered, but as is often the case, new lines of inquiry arose from those answers. Marco Polo is confident this report will spur more answers to these and many other questions. The volume of material on the Biden laptop, from iPhone location data and internet browsing history to rental leases and insurance verification cards, in every file type imaginable, made the cover-up and slow walk from the press, the IC apparatus, and law enforcement all the more enraging. The contacts, spreadsheets, photos, videos, messages, and other files, approximately 200 gigabytes, confirm there was no plausible way the material was forged. Shortly after the corporate media's pre-election cover-up was complete, liberal publications began allowing their writers to ask basic questions. For instance, Joe said that he had, quote, never spoken with Hunter about his businesses. Why then did Joe meet with Tony Bobulinski in the Beverly Hilton for nearly an hour on 5/2/2017? Instead of asking simple questions that would have revealed his complicity, mainstream reporters discount whistleblowers and ask softball questions, which allows Joe to easily avoid the issue. And that's like what we're dealing with as MAGA. Not saying that there's not corruption on the Republican Party, but it is just the worst on the Democrat, and it is so exponentially worse. But they also have the mainstream media covering for them. Just another, as they say, another apparatus that functions solely to protect one party mainly, and whoever they're protecting, I don't care, right, left, center, nonpartisan, bipartisan, partisan, you deserve to be executed for these crimes that they're just weirdly only finding on the Democrats, but whoever they find it with, them. I don't want tax dollars paying for their meals and a bed, and then for them to be released one day like Wiener. Forensic analyses of the Biden laptop by a former federal investigator were commissioned. Quote, I am a retired U.S. Secret Service agent and began cyber forensics in 1996, getting certified by the U.S. Treasury program. In addition to 11 other Secret Service agents, I was the first in the United States to become certified as a computer forensics specialist and have been conducting forensics examinations while employed or contracted by various government agencies and in the private sector continuously for 26 years. I discovered Robert Hunter Biden owns an Apple iPhone with the serial number which was in use on and before March 2019. The iPhone cellular IP address of that is consistent with his cellular provider AT&T. In addition to selfies with geolocation data, there were approximately 39,189 iMessage chat conversations which were syncing and backed up. The last usage of the MacBook by RHB was on March 17, 2019, which coincides with the Mac Repair Shop drop-off date, April 12, 2019. Based on my analysis and overwhelming data, confirms Hunter Biden's MacBook Pro was not hacked and the data contained on the hard drive is authentic. Based on the data I examined, there was no manipulation of any photographs, emails, documents, or other user activities. If I was able to obtain specific information from cloud, financial providers, cellular carriers, and other companies identified during my analysis, I would be able to prepare an affidavit for any requesting party or agency, including any related testimony. Another forensic analysis of the Biden laptop was conducted by an LA-based firm named Merriman and Associates. The firm's founder, Brad Merriman, was a 29-year veteran of the FBI, served as a chief information security officer, and founded the Bureau's cyber forensic unit. His partner, Dr. Joseph Greenfield, is an associate professor at the University of Southern California and helped write their degree program in intelligence and cyber operations. After an extensive analysis of the hard drive, Greenfield and Merriman produced a high-level report which detailed their findings. A summary of the report is below. Quote, they found emails for multiple accounts on the laptop dating back to 2009 and other data that appeared to be related to Mr. Biden between 2016 and 2019. The report's findings were consistent with the known timeline for the hard drive. A Wilmington, Delaware computer store work order with Hunter's signature shows he left his 2017 MacBook Pro laptop there on April 12, 2019. The Merriman and Associates report said their original Macintosh HD drive was created on March 28, 2018. Hunter's iCloud email address was added to the laptop system on October 21, 2018, as well as his work email at his firm Rosemont Seneca and February 2, 2019. The same day, a Gmail address he used to log on to sex cam sites and another personal Gmail address belonging to Hunter were also added. Beau Biden's old Gmail account was added on February 7, 2019. Emails addressed to Hunter's various email addresses dating from December 2009 to December 2020 were found on the system. An iPad with the name Hunter's iPad and 3 email addresses associated with the Biden family was backed up on the laptop and on iCloud in January 2019 and again a month later. Greenfield found 818 call logs in this iPad backup with timestamps from June 2016 to February 2019. There were 8,942 entries in the iPad's contact book created between April 2016 and January 2019. In February 2019, an iPhone XS was also synced with the laptop. Its serial number was consistent with the timestamps of the data on the phone. That is a lot to fabricate if this is just a hoax laptop, right? The operating system timestamps appear to be authentic, and no evidence was found to suggest that the timestamps or data were altered or manufactured. No indications were found that would suggest the data was manufactured. According to their former and current colleagues who have come forward as whistleblowers to U.S. senators, FBI HQ Supervisory Intelligence Analysis Brian Auten, an assistant special agent in charge of the Washington Field Office, geez, what a mouthful, Tim Thibault, were the so-called tip of the FBI spear in D.C. handling the Biden laptop slow walk operation. Auten evidently opened a so-called assessment in August 2020, just 3 months before the presidential election, which threw cold water on the Bureau's already... what is that word? Which was being managed by the BAFO. Auten's assessment was then utilized by ASAC Thibault, who reposted numerous vile and derogatory messages about his then boss, President Trump, as a justification for ordering investigative activity to cease. SIA Auten also played a central role in the Russian collusion hoax and bogus Steele dossier. Nice. In other words, a single analyst has stood in the middle of 2 of the most consequential FBI scandals of the 21st century. During the same month that SAI Auten cooked up his baseless assessment, 2 other operatives from the FBI HQ, Nikki Flores and Brad Benavides, were busy spreading falsehoods to the aforementioned U.S. senators who were approached by the whistleblowers. Specifically, Flores, who met multiple times with Joe's top lawyer in the West Wing, and Benavides, I think that's how it's pronounced, Benavides, who retired following the exposure of his role in the FBI conspiracy and took an executive position with Amazon, briefed a U.S. Senate committee on 8/6/2020 about how legitimate inquiries into the Biden's foreign business deals were enabling a, quote, Russian disinformation campaign. Naturally, the briefing's details were leaked to the Washington Post, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, the founder of Benavides' new employer. Because this is showing a letter to this Nikki Flores, and to Mr. Benavides, that on August 6, 2020, as we were finishing our September 23, 2020 report on Hunter Biden's financial connections to foreign governments and questionable foreign nationals, you provided a briefing to us on behalf of the FBI and intelligence community. As we have publicly and privately stated to you and Director Wray since that briefing, the briefing was unnecessary and was only done because of pressure from our Democratic colleagues, including Democratic leadership to falsely attack our Biden investigation as advancing Russian disinformation. We also made clear our concern that the briefing would be subject to a leak that would shed a false light on the focus of our investigation. Indeed, on May 1st, 2021, the Washington Post did exactly that, and so did the other inaccurate media articles during the course of our investigation, which falsely labeled our investigation as advancing Russian disinformation. Moreover, whistleblowers have recently alleged that in August 2020, the same month you provided the briefing to us, FBI officials initiated a scheme to downplay derogatory information on Hunter Biden for the purpose of shutting down investigative activity relating to his potential criminal exposure by labeling it disinformation. Whistleblowers have also alleged that local FBI leadership instructed employees not to look at the Hunter Biden laptop immediately after the FBI had obtained it. Simply put, the unnecessary FBI briefing provided the Democrats and liberal media the vehicle to spread their false narrative that our work advanced Russian disinformation. Again, just think about what I always say, how it's Israel now. So think about all the shit that they're getting away with now because they're blaming Israel and the Jews. Although you stated that the FBI didn't intend to interfere in our investigation, the practical effect of such an unnecessary briefing and the subsequent leaks relating to it created interference, which frustrated and obstructed congressional oversight efforts. Another point to make is all the people that want to get upset about the Epstein files, acting like Donald J. Trump himself was sitting there with a black Sharpie blacking out all the shit in the files. It's delegated to different teams that has to be overseen by the FBI and other organizations and other teams and other organizations, and then the FBI again. And then they do shit like this. 3 weeks before the 2020 selection, the New York Post published a story proving that not only were the Bidens' foreign business deals unrelated to a Russian disinformation campaign, but also that the FBI had been in possession of the Biden laptop since December 2019. When the same U.S. senators who were approached by the aforementioned whistleblowers wrote a letter to the director of the FBI inquiring about this blatant gaslighting, FBI official Jill Tyson responded on behalf of the Bureau and said it had, quote, nothing to add and could not provide any additional information. At the same time, Tyson penned the response letter. She was engaging in an inappropriate romantic relationship with a subordinate, which disrupted the workplace. Tyson still works at the FBI. I know at the beginning it said that our current president, Joe Biden, so I don't know if she still is. 3 days after Tyson penned the FBI's bogus response letter, the aforementioned Bobulinski spent more than 5 hours in a room at the FBI WFO detailing precisely what went down with the Bidens' business activities with CCP-linked operatives. Coincidentally, or not, Joe's brother, Jimmy, actually called Bobulinski via WhatsApp during the FBI interview. ASAC Thibault was not in D.C. that day, but 4 of his colleagues, SAC of the Criminal and Cyber Division Jim Dawson, Supervisory Special Agent Giulio Arseni, Bill Novak, and Garrett Churchill, met with Bobulinski. Novak and Churchill even videotaped Bobulinski's interview and impounded his devices. Following the interview, ASAC Thibault repeatedly assured Bobulinski's attorneys that the FBI agents Tony met with would follow up with him regarding the evidence he provided. The agents never did. This is the WhatsApp. He says, "Are you trying to call me?" In essence, there was a multi-vector suppression campaign at the FBI. The Bureau did not follow the facts and enforce U.S. law. In addition to the FBI HQ and FBI WFO, the aforementioned Wilmington Residence Agency, under the direction of the BAFO, evidently told staff that they, quote, will not look at that Hunter Biden laptop because the FBI was, quote, not going to change the outcome of the election again. What? The f*** do you mean again? Furthermore, the DOJ OIG watchdog, led by Michael Horowitz and his top lawyer, Adam Miles, has also done nothing in terms of accountability for the repeated and verifiable FBI policy violations. To add more injury to the insult of gaslighting, the DOJ HQ under the leadership of Bill Barr, and specifically the U.S. Attorney for Delaware, David Weiss, slow-walked the investigation into the Biden family's crimes. The reasons for slow-walking the investigation put forth by the DOJ HQ were about, quote, avoiding election politics. Yet the DOJ HQ's delay was itself a political decision as it withheld key information from voters. Exactly. Said differently, if not for the Biden surname, members of the family would have been treated much differently. Justice delayed was justice denied. Barr and Weiss delayed justice. President Trump responded to these revelations by lamenting the fact that the Justice Department denied to the American people the very thing it was charged to deliver by delaying subpoenas and otherwise hindering the normal course of law enforcement. As was the case in many previous instances, Hunter's surname got him out of a serious pinch, at least for now. This is a tweet from Trump. If Biden gets in, nothing will happen to Hunter or Joe. Barr will do nothing, and the new group of partisan killers coming in will quickly kill it all. Same thing with Durham. We caught them cold, spying, treason, and more. The hard part. But justice took too long. Will be DOA. Having received cover from the DOJ until after the 2020 election certification vote on 12/8/2020, Hunter released a statement filled with doublespeak. To ensure that the federal investigation went nowhere uncomfortable for the Bidens, Joe appointed the colleague of Hunter's attorney to be the chief deputy of the DOJ's criminal division on his first full day in office. Tellingly, Nick McQuaid refused to confirm whether he recused himself from the federal investigation into the Bidens. To map out how the illegal influence operation worked, Chris Clark, Hunter's attorney, and Nick McQuaid both worked at Latham and Watkins. Clark and McQuaid argued cases together, so spin doctors in the media cannot claim that Latham and Watkins is just a huge international law firm, and the pair barely interacted. In one of his very first decisions as president, I was wondering why they were doing this with the R. They're calling him Resident Joe Biden instead of the president. Resident Joe appointed McQuaid to help oversee the division investigating Joe's family. The criminal division at DOJ HQ oversees the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware. In short, McQuaid likely violated 28 CFR by not recusing himself from the investigation. Indeed, McQuaid's boss at the DOJ HQ did not publish an opinion stating that McQuaid's participation in the case, quote, would not create an appearance of a conflict of interest likely to affect the public perception of the integrity of the investigation or prosecution. Hunter has moved on to other shady activity by joining perhaps the only industry that is more corrupt than his lucrative gig in the Ukrainian energy sector, art dealing. Hunter's dealer, a portly cinephile and bankrupt former felon named Georges Burgess, boasted about his group of about 25 collectors, most of them overseas, and that he has been inundated with calls from collectors eager to buy Biden's art. Hunter planned to host an exhibit with the self-pitying title of Under the Microscope, which would be sponsored by Burgess's gallery. Even with the well-documented money laundering issues and other criminal activity that has occurred in the art industry for many decades, Burgess considers Hunter's artwork to be more consequential than Joe's public office. Quote, I believe that he is going to be considered a great artist of this century. His father, Joe, will be known, of course, as a U.S. president, but most importantly, as the father of a great artist. Wow, I'm so glad they have that quote. With Hunter's new scheme all set up, it was richly ironic that his own father's administration released a report in December 2021 that actually told the truth. The art industry has a, quote, built-in opacity, lack of stable and predictable pricing, and inherent cross-border transportability of goods sold, which makes the market optimal for illicit value transfer, sanctions evasion, and corruption. Equally ironic, a similar report was released less than 5 months before the 2020 election by none other than a longtime ally of the Biden family and Joe's former colleague, U.S. Senator Tom Carper. Okay, can I see like some pictures of Hunter's art? Since he's going to be known as one of the greatest artists of this century, I would assume we'd have to see his art, right? It doesn't seem very public. And if this is it, this drug trip, and that's what's going to make him be known as the greatest artist of the century. Nevertheless, some members of the U.S. Congress, a body which has been plagued for decades by shameless influence peddling and other insider trading, have begun to raise concerns about how Hunter and his dealer could yield $500,000 per piece for Hunter's so-called works. It is important for Marco Polo to make clear, especially to law enforcement agencies, that this report was prepared with an extremely attentive eye towards that. Having seen the links, the FBI and other entities in the apparatus have gone to harass citizens who expose corruption. Said differently, we redacted whatever was legally required to be redacted in this report and absolutely nothing more. Marco Polo does not break the law. We expose those who do. Damn Aura. Additionally, this section requires that any person who has knowledge of the actual commission of a felony must report it, quote, as soon as possible, to some judge or other person in civil or military authority. In plain speak, this statute required us to expose the felonies and other crimes contained on the Biden laptop and send the report to law enforcement agencies across the nation at the federal and state levels. Furthermore, Marco Polo unequivocally disclaims any intention to cause any threat, intimidating action, or incitement of harm to any person covered by, and we do not condone, encourage, intend, or have any knowledge that any other person will or may use the information in this report for any unlawful purpose. As we will demonstrate, Marco Polo's motive is to see justice delivered to all criminals by those whose responsibility it is to carry out that duty. Oh my goodness. Wow. Don't get me wrong. I knew the general issues with this Hunter Biden laptop, and I know some names here and there, but I did not know the specifics like that. I am definitely going to keep reading this, but I definitely need a break after that. So that is going to be it for this part. I don't know how I am going to edit this and post it to YouTube.